Election day in Ohio. Tonight, 10 TV is live across the Buckeye State.
It's imperative that we all make our voices heard.
Covering the big races.
This is probably the #1 Senate race in the country.
There's one candidate who can beat Sherrod Brown this November.
If you're not getting results, you're just shouting. And we've had too much shouting.
I'm the only one who's ever started a business. I'm the only one who's never held public office.
Statewide and right down to your local precinct.
We believe that our community has come to expect educational excellence.
What's driving Ohioans to the polls?
It's a privilege, it's a responsibility that you have to cast your vote.
A special edition of 10 TV News at 7 starts right now.
Now at 7, in just 30 minutes, polls will close across the Buckeye State. Right now, Ohioans are casting last-minute votes in the state's primary. Let's take a live look at one of those polling locations, this one here in East Columbus tonight. Thanks for joining us for 10 TV's election special at 7. I'm Yolanda Harris.
And I'm Andrew Kinsey. Tonight is the largest election since Super Tuesday, and Ohio is part of it. Tonight, 10 TV has live team coverage at watch parties from Cleveland to Columbus. Our reporters are covering the Senate primary, the crowded Franklin County prosecutor's race, and those school district levies.
But let's start tonight with what analysts are calling the biggest Senate primary race in the nation. 3 GOP candidates are vying to run against Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown in the November election.
Let's start right away with 10 TV's Colin Dorsey, who is live in Northeast Ohio. And Colin, you just talked to State Senator Matt Dolan. How's he feeling in these final hours?
Yeah, I just wrapped up with him a few minutes ago, and he says he's feeling confident headed into these last few minutes before polls close. He says it's all about messaging and feels comfortable about where things stand. Now, we did have the time to talk about quite a few issues, a couple of things domestic, including the situation at the border, which he is calling a crisis. He says he would like to temporarily suspend crossings at the border. He says we're a land of immigrants, but that can be done legally and orderly. And then when it comes to international affairs such as the war in Ukraine and the war in Israel, he says the country is safer when we have an international presence. Now, while this is his second run for the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate seat, he finished a close third back in 2022. He says he had more time on this campaign. Also, he spent $9 million of his own money to get to tonight. But the big question, will that make a difference? I guess we'll find out in the coming hours. Live in Brecksville, Ohio, Colin Dorsey, 10 TV News.
All right, Colin. Yes, we will find out. Thank you. Our team coverage continues tonight with 10 TV's Kevin Landers.
He is live at Bernie Moreno's watch party and Westlake. Kevin.
Well, good evening. The stage is literally set here at Bernie Moreno's election headquarters. You can see behind me, the podium is ready, and supporters of Bernie Moreno hope that he will be the one delivering the victory speech tonight. This battle between Moreno, Frank LaRose, and Matt Dolan will possibly determine if Republicans could win the Senate in the Senate House, because they need just one seat to do it. And the winner tonight will take on Sherrod Brown. Now, Republicans say that they need this win big time. Moreno, the one Trump critic who once called former President Donald Trump a lunatic, now finds himself the only candidate that Trump supports. Moreno, who is a multimillionaire, one of 2 self-funded candidates in this race, the other being Matt Dolan. Moreno has been dogged in this campaign by lawsuits that were filed against him by former employees involving discriminations that were eventually settled in court. On Thursday, the Associated Press reported that in 2008, someone with access to Moreno's email account created an adult website. The AP said it could not confirm if Moreno created that account, and Moreno's attorney said it was done by a former intern. Now, if elected, Moreno supports the abolishment of a Department of Education. He supports legal immigration and has called for integrity in the election process, and he's also a strong supporter of Israel. We will continue to follow the Moreno campaign throughout the night and bring you the latest results when we get them. Reporting live in Westlake, I'm Kevin Landers. Now we send it over to Angela Ann in Grandview with the Frank LaRose campaign.
Good evening, Kevin. Yes, we're here in Grandview Heights at the LaRose Campaign Watch headquarters, and they're really expected to get underway at about 7:30 when the polls close, which is why behind me you can see people slowly starting to trickle in here. LaRose himself is not expected to arrive until once the race is close to being called, so that'll be at least another hour or so. But earlier today, we saw LaRose tweeting about the fact that he went to cast his ballot with 2 of his 3 girls by his side. All along, his campaign has promised that he's a father, father, a fighter, and a proven battle-tested conservative. He wants to be that leader for Ohio. And one of his campaign platforms is really talking about securing the border. He says he will finish Trump's wall if he is elected to the U.S. Senate. He also wants a lifetime ban for foreign nationals who break our laws here in the United States, and he wants to implement travel bans into the country from nations that are deemed a threat. So these are some of the things that LaRose has been touting throughout his campaign. Here's why that's important. He does not have the endorsement of either former President Donald Trump or Governor Mike DeWine, but he is banking on his border policy and his proposals because a recent CBS News poll shows that many Ohio voters in the primary choose to want to ban undocumented immigrants from Ohio. So LaRose is really hoping for that to push him in this primary race. For now, I'll send it back to you in the studio. Yolanda and Andrew.
Angela Ann, live for us tonight. Thanks so much. Another big race we are watching closely tonight, the Democratic primary for the Franklin County prosecutor. Delaware City Attorney Natalia Harris, Columbus City Council member Shayla Favor, and the Deputy Chief Legal Counsel for the prosecutor's office, Anthony Pearson, are all running.
Whoever wins tonight will take on defense attorney John Rutan in November. Rutan is running unopposed in the GOP primary. For more on this race, let's get out to 10 TV's Tara Jabbour. And Tara, 10 TV spoke to all of these candidates. What are some of their focuses?
That's right. We got a chance to speak with all of the candidates just last week, and they all have different backgrounds that they believe will help them be best fit to be the Franklin County prosecutor. Now, according to the Franklin County prosecutor's website, they see about 8,000 felony cases a year, and they are also the legal advisor to all county officials, townships, and agencies. Here's one thing that each candidate says they will do if they are elected.
Some of the things that I want to change and that I will implement in my first 100 days include plea offer guidelines so that we are more consistent in offering plea bargains to defendants, as well as sentencing guidelines, meaning that our office will be more consistent in making sentencing recommendations to the court.
Violence is a symptom of poverty, adverse childhood experiences, as well as mental health or some form of trauma. And so in order for us to truly address youth violence, we have to understand those risks and address those risks at the individual and community level.
We know we're dealing with, at least in Columbus, some of the highest crime rates that we've had for years. So I want to start the community engagement so that we can stop those types of cycles.
What charges are to be filed? What happens is these prosecutors treat it like law school, and they charge with ridiculous amounts to enforce plea offers. So with me in there, I'm going to make sure people are charged based upon facts, not for plea negotiations and not for corruptness.
And we'll, of course, keep you updated tonight as these results roll in. Andrew?
Tara, this race hit a sour note earlier today. Shayla Favor's campaign brought up an issue about flyers that Anthony Pearson's campaign was handing out. You got to the bottom of this issue. And what did you find out, and what are both campaigns saying tonight?
Well, Shayla Favor's campaign is saying that Anthony Pearson's campaign was handing out flyers earlier today that was misleading to voters, making them believe that Pearson was endorsed by the Democratic Party. We know that the Democratic Party has not endorsed a candidate in this race. Now, Shayla Favor's campaign did release a statement. They said in part, quote, "This is an outrageous attempt to mislead voters as they head into the polls today. Throughout this campaign, my opponent claimed to be a person of integrity and trusted by the community. To see him stoop to this level to mislead voters about having an endorsement that he does not have is disappointing," end quote. She also accused Pearson of making the flyers match party official designs and colors. Now, Anthony Pearson's campaign responded, saying in part, quote, "The campaign put together a piece to promote our campaign and highlight the other recommended Democrats on the ballot at the same time, which is important in a low turnout election. It is a factually accurate piece. Also, the fonts and colors are not the same, contrary to assumptions," end quote. We'll, of course, have that update for you after the polls close at 7:30 tonight. Reporting live in downtown Columbus, Tara Jabbour, 10 TV News.
All right, thank you, Tara. Now, it's still ahead tonight. The 10 TV staff is ready for the results to roll in. And let's take a live look at the 10 TV newsroom tonight, where our team is standing by to update you on the election results as soon as they come in tonight. So make sure you download our free 10 TV News app for any updates.
Plus, city departments across Central Ohio are asking voters for more money. We'll break down the other issues on the ballot. That's ahead. In 2024, as Ohioans head to the polls, they're voting in the presidential primary. That's despite the results being a foregone conclusion. Both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are their party's presumptive nominees.
Now, both men are hitting the campaign trail for the general election. And at this point, they have hit. And Mr. Biden will arrive in Reno, President Biden in Reno, ahead of a series of campaign stops in Nevada and Arizona. Meanwhile, today, former President Trump cast his vote in Palm Beach in Florida's presidential primary. He is currently trying to come up with almost $500 million for a bond needed to appeal his civil fraud case.
Still ahead, our election coverage continues. 10 TV is breaking down the issues.
Analysts explain why all eyes are on the Ohio Senate primary tonight. With less than 20 minutes to go until the polls close. Stay with us.
Now at 7, with just 15 minutes left to cast your vote, the Franklin County Board of Elections tells us voter turnout is low today.
10 TV's Carla Rogner spoke with voters at the Driving Park Community Rec Center. And Carla, what do voters tell you?
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet here today, but we did meet some voters who say no matter what's on the ballot, they didn't want to miss a chance to let their voices be heard. But poll workers here say it has been a slow day at the Driving Park Rec Center, and the Franklin County Board of Elections says it's been a similar story across their 304 polling sites. They were expecting low voter turnout because only 4% of people submitted early ballots. But the board says about 60% of people still prefer to vote in person, so they were hoping more people would show up throughout the day. Voters we talked to said it's important to have a voice no matter what's on the ballot.
There are a couple of important things that are still on the ballot here locally, but just for a little perspective, the primary in 2020, we almost got to 20% turnout, and in 2016, in the presidential cycle, we had a 41% turnout. So you can see when there are competitive races for primaries, certainly there's going to be more people.
Just about 14 minutes now left to cast your ballot. You have to be in line by 7:30 in order to vote. Then hopefully once the polls close and we get more numbers on voter turnout, we'll have a better idea of exactly how many people came out here to cast a ballot today. Reporting live in Columbus, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
All right, thank you, Carla. Our team coverage continues tonight with a deep dive into the Senate primary race.
10 TV's Doug Petcast joins us now to explain the importance.
Yes, that really is the big race on the ticket right now since the presidential race is settled. It is the race on the Republican side for the Senate nomination between Frank LaRose, Bernie Moreno, and Matt Dolan. I am joined by our analyst tonight from the University of Dayton. It's Chris Devine, political science professor, as well as OSU political science professor emeritus Paul Beck. Gentlemen, thanks again for coming in just like you did last election. First of all, Chris, with you, what are you watching in this race as far as how it's really been shaping up?
It's been an interesting dynamic. I think the big one has been when Bernie Moreno got Donald Trump's endorsement. All the candidates wanted that. I think Frank LaRose in particular was also pursuing that. That changed the state of the race and made Bernie Moreno the front runner. I think he's the front runner tonight, but Matt Dolan's been very close in the polls, and you can't discount Frank LaRose.
Yeah, some of the polling, Paul, that I've seen has Moreno slightly ahead with Dolan in second and LaRose. What do you think about how this is shaping up?
Well, polling is very difficult in primaries, particularly primaries like this one, where there are three candidates who are not that well known statewide. And so there are a lot of undecideds in the polls. Whether those undecideds will actually vote is a big question. Actually, whether the lack of a contest at the presidential level will cause many of these undecideds to say, it's not worth my while. It's cold outside. I'm not going to go out and vote today. And we'll see. That's what elections are all about, after all.
Now, one of the polls I saw had a 44% undecided, so it is a big chunk right now. So we will certainly be watching that. Going forward, as we watch this unfold, Chris, how important is this race nationally?
Oh, it's huge. People are following this nationwide, not just here in Ohio. There aren't that many Senate races altogether that could easily flip between the parties. Democrats, I think in particular, are nervous about this one, about Sherrod Brown losing. But then again, he has a good track record in competitive races in the past. So there's also some optimism here for Democrats. But I think Republicans are sensing the opportunity here, and they're going to be following this closely as well.
How about for you, Paul, the importance of this nationally?
Oh, it's very important nationally. It's one of two races that are contests in states that Trump won. So these are really being targeted.
And Trump won by 8% in 2020.
He won big here, and he won big in Montana, which is the other state where John Tester is running. So those are the two that are really going to get a lot of attention. And the fate of the Senate, who controls the Senate, may well be determined here in Ohio and maybe as well in Montana.
All right, well, Chris Devine and Paul Beck will be joining me tonight at 9 o'clock on our special presentation for results here on 10 TV Plus. We're going to be looking at the big board, getting real-time results with this, particularly on the Senate race. We'll be able to zoom in and give you county-by-county details on the results to show just where the biggest support is coming in for these candidates. And we're watching, of course, the presidential race, congressional races as well. So keep it right here, and I'm going to send it back over to the anchor desk.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. Thank you, gentlemen. Tonight, the Olentangy Local School District is asking voters for more taxpayer money.
Yeah, the district says the $4.25 million levy would address growing pains as more families move into the district. 10 TV's Carly Dion joining us live from Lewis Center tonight to explain what's on the line here. Carly.
So 12,000 new housing units are expected to be added to the Olentangy School District over the next decade. And the treasurer says that adds, for every 5 homes, about 4 students to the school district. So this $4.25 million levy would cost homeowners about $150 for every $100,000 in property value a year. The district tells us this funding would be used to build 5 new schools to accommodate 5,000 students over the next 10 years. Along with the addition of new schools, it would allow the district to make additional investments in arts and athletics programs and technology. District Treasurer Ryan Jenkins explains why, if the levy does not pass, the cost of the project is only going to increase.
We believe that this is operationally, the lowest ask we've had in 30 years. If it doesn't pass sometime here in 2024, the window of time that we have to plan and work with is less, and we already know that the operational ask will increase.
And now both the treasurer and the superintendent tell me they're excited but also a little anxious as they wait for tonight's results. Live in Lewis Center, Carly Dion, 10 TV News.
Thank you, Carly. Other local school districts with levies on the ballot include Heath City Schools and Fairbanks Local Schools. Fairbanks is asking voters to pass 0.25% income tax. Madison Plains Local Schools and Teays Valley both have bond issues on the ballot. Teays Valley says the money would be used to build 2 new school buildings.
A shakeup in a legal election tonight. The Hocking County prosecutor tied up in the federal lawsuit officially resigning. That's despite Ryan Black being on the ballot today. He's running for re-election against 3 challengers. The announcement comes after Black was accused by 2 former employees of taking advantage of his power as prosecutor to have a sexual relationship with one of them. His last day as prosecutor is April 19th. No word tonight on how this will impact today's election results.
Well, tonight, Norwich Township Fire is asking voters to pass a levy that would cost homeowners around $172 per year for each $100,000 of value property in their property value. The levy would generate more than $9 million per year. The Norwich Township Fire Chief says the money would increase staffing levels, add a 4th ambulance, and help build a 4th fire station. He says with the growth in the area, the department needs to expand. London voters are being asked to approve a 0.25% increase in income tax. It would fund the London Fire and EMS department. The city says if the levy fails, staffing reductions are possible. The Marysville Public Library is hoping voters approve a 5-year levy to cover current expenses. It is a $1.5 million replacement levy. And on the Grandview Heights ballot, a property tax levy renewal. Taxes would not go up. The city says the renewal is needed to fund services, operations, and public safety.
10 TV will be monitoring all these races throughout the night and keeping you updated here on air and online. You can watch those results live on our free 10 TV Plus app on your Roku, Amazon TV, or Amazon Fire. We'll be on at 9 p.m. tonight with the latest on the races and a live analysis, county by county, with those results. Stick with us.
Right now, we are just 5 minutes away from polls closing in Ohio. So let's get straight out to Carla Rogner, who's live at the Driving Park Community Center.
Carla, any last-minute voters there rushing in?
Yeah, I think I just counted about 3 people here casting what are probably some of the final ballots of the day, but you have to just be in line by 7:30 in order to get one of those ballots cast. And then the election workers here will start tearing things down and they'll start tabulating those results. But it's been pretty quiet here all day. There was a surge about an hour or so ago when people were getting off work, but it was pretty much quiet around all the polling locations today. We'll have a final better idea of those voter turnout numbers later today. Back to you guys.
All right, Carla Rogner reporting live for us tonight. Carla, thanks so much. When those polls close in just about 3 minutes, here are the results that we'll be closely watching. The GOP primary for U.S. Senate. Whoever wins will take on incumbent Senator Sherrod Brown. The Democratic race for Franklin County prosecutor. The candidate that clinches that nomination will take on Republican John Rutan in November. And that Olentangy schools levy. We're watching that one closely. If approved, residents will have to pay an extra $150 $100 a year for every $100,000 in their home value.
Right now, download the free 10 TV Plus app on your Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire. We'll have live results of the election in just 90 minutes, plus a breakdown of what these election results mean. Thank you for joining us tonight for our election special. Wheel of Fortune is next. We'll see you back here for 10 TV News at 11 with live team coverage of those results as they roll in.